That was like, I think my first like real moment. I remember I broke down and cried after. I was like, this is crazy. Because like we've been working at this for so long and then like just been at a certain level for a very long period of time. So I feel like that first time in like 2022 was when I first was like, okay, this is way bigger than I thought it was.
What's up? You're watching DIFFUS and I'm joined today by Adam and Will from Lorna Shore.
Hello.
Welcome, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
We're here today in Berlin ahead of the first show of your current tour. And Berlin is a bit of a special place for you, I think, because, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think this is the first city you actually played with Lorna Shore when you first joined the band, right?
That's crazy that you mentioned that, because I totally forgot about that, but yeah, literally. I remember that's where where my in-ears completely blew out.
I searched where the venue was today, because I wondered how far away it was.
How far is it?
Like a mile away, not far.
Yeah.
Good times. That was like my most anxious show I've ever had. Ever.
It was awesome.
All my gear started just dying.
Same.
Like couple hours before we were about to go on stage, and obviously I'm like, never played with the band before. I'm like, this is the worst possible.
Yeah, we just like landed and then played a show. So it was really great. We had a great time.
I was just about to ask you, do you have nice memories? I was like, carnage.
It was carnage, yeah, for sure.
It was something.
It was definitely, I think all of our gear was like breaking. Because I didn't like, I forget about the whole power converting thing. So I just like plugged into stuff. So like my pedal board just blew up, which I had for like years. And then, yeah, his in-ears broke. And then we just had to like manage to figure it out. And then, yeah, it was good. It was a good time.
But we back.
Yeah, we're so back.
You persevered. You defeated Berlin somehow. Like, it's time for redemption now. It's like,
I think we've been back a few times. I think we've redeemed ourselves from that first time that he came. That he came. So.
But like looking back, that was like 5 years now, I think. Could you like have anticipated like the point where you're at now back then? Like, how does it feel to look back on this? It's like half a decade now, basically.
For me, I didn't know what was happening because I technically wasn't even in the band. So there's no way that I could have. No. Like, holy shit, I made it.
Even me being in the band, I couldn't imagine us being here, you know? Like, to be in this position, like, is kind of crazy. It's definitely surreal. Especially like that, what we did that like with his first time playing a show was like normal for us. Like that was like the normal like size the band was. So like for me doing that was very like every day, but to see ourselves where we're at now is like so crazy. It's like nothing I think any one of us could expected. And it's awesome.
It's insane that it was 5 years ago. Too.
I know.
It doesn't even feel like it was 5 years ago.
That feels insane that it was 5 years ago. Yeah.
We're getting old. What happened?
Yeah.
What the hell happened?
Nobody knows. But I mean, Adam, for you especially, you've been in this band for 15 years.
Yeah, I know.
And like the last 3 or 4 years, it was just like...
Crazy.
Yeah. Like, did you feel like there was some sort of point where it was a shift, where you felt like, oh, something's happening, something's different?
Yeah, I mean, we started like, it took a while for me to grab onto it. Like when we released the EP and we started songs we did with Will, like it was doing really, really well, but it didn't click for me because we're so used to being a band at a certain size. And like, I still see the band when we just first started playing to like 5 people in like a crappy room in like New Jersey. So like, I still see the band in that perspective and that hasn't changed. But so it took a while for me to grasp that like we're like a bigger band. I think it wasn't until we did festivals our first time in Europe. We played like Summer Breeze to like what felt like all of Germany. So I was like, this is crazy. This is like surreal to be in front of like this many people. Because we're not used to that. We played like to like a couple hundred people at a time. And like, that was really it. To see like...
Chaos and carnage.
Yes, exactly.
200 people,
yeah, exactly.
300.
So to see like an endless amount of people in a field in Germany, I was like, what? This is insane. So that was like, I think my first like real moment. I remember I broke down and cried after. I was like, this is crazy. Because like we've been working at this for so long and then like just been at a certain level for a very long period of time. So I feel like that first time in like 2022 was when I first was like, okay, this is way bigger than I thought it was. And then we like did Europe again with Parkway Drive, and then we played to like just that many people every day, which was also terrifying. Was like really terrifying. So, but yeah, then it started to click, I think, at that point. A little bit more than I was used to, a little bit.
Yeah, and the journey continues because you've got a new album coming up in September. I'm going to read it because I don't want to screw it up. I feel the Everblack Festering within me.
There you go.
Dramatic title. Huge.
We love long titles.
Yeah.
Wait till you see the next one.
Yeah.
It's going to be a whole book.
All of the
We're not over the whole page.
We're not a fan of subtleties.
But But what goals did you have, like starting to work on this album? What did you want to achieve? What did you want it to be?
I think we just wanted a more evolved, bigger version of what we've always been doing. Obviously, like Adam was saying, we just finished playing like these big arenas, and you know, you watch all these other bands and you see like these crazy inspirations from people who are just like really appealing to everybody, but somehow still keeping to themselves. And you know, when Adam was writing the instrumentals, I remember he was like saying a lot of that. It was like, how can we keep to the same Lorna Shore sound, but like almost just bring it to the
I think it was just an evolvement of our sound, just getting how do you expand ourselves? Like I think that was the hardest part about writing the record. It was like we kind of had a vision for what we wanted to do, but didn't really know how to do it until we started like trying to write songs. And then it was like kind of what Will just said, like trying to expand our sound. How do you take it to the next level? How do you make it bigger, but not abandoning what you've done? And I feel like we kind of landed there, but it took a while to figure that out, because it's a hard thing to be like, you know, when we did the last record, we knew exactly what we wanted to do. It's like we did this 3-song EP. Let's just continue doing the same thing. So it was pretty much clear. Like the road was right in front of us. This time around, it was like we don't want to do anything different, but we also want to do something different. So it's like what we're trying to figure out was like kind of even somewhat contradictory in and of itself. But I think we kind of landed on, let's do ourselves. Let's make it more, and not abandon where we've been, but try to like look ahead to the next step. And I feel like that's kind of where we ended up.
It was a lot of reprogramming our brains.
Yeah.
It was like, okay, let's write this. Nah, it's not going to be it. Let's do this. And then it's whatever we ended up with at the end is the best version of what we could have had. But it was a lot of
shooting in the dark and being like, should we do this? And we're like, maybe. And then it was like, no. Should we do this? Wait, yeah. No. So it was a lot of like that. But because I think it just felt like, I think we were kind of going too far away from where we were. And then it was like, this doesn't feel like us. Or we were like doing something that felt just like, we've already done this. Like we should probably expand upon it. So it was a lot of that, a lot of trial and error. So
in the previous record, Pain Remains, it had sort of a concept. It had a narrative that kind of went through all of the songs and connected them. Has this new album something like that as well, like a leading theme or something that connects the songs?
It's not very much like what you would expect, like how like how you're saying Pain Remains. It was literally like almost like a story. Everything was woven together in some kind of way. This is not like that at all. I think we just try to give every song its own identity. When I was writing it lyrically, I wanted to write it, you know, based off of like things that I was, rather than being like super metaphorical or, you know, like talking about hypothetical thing that's like that happened or didn't happen, that makes you feel however you want to feel in that moment. I wanted to write something that was just like, this is true to how I feel, like my experiences from the last couple of years. And I think this again goes back to like how we went on tour with Parkway, and you see these other bands, and it's like some of the things that they say might be like a little bit simpler, but it's the way that it's executed that makes you feel like when somebody says something like that, you're like, I feel that inside. And I think that I try to take little bits of that and put that into the lyrics and just like make it, you know, a song about, you know, something that happened in my family, or like things that I went through at some point. And then, you know, we got like Unbreakable, which is like the all-inclusive song. You know, I don't think we would have gotten to this point if it wasn't for the trials and tribulations that we've had to get here. So there is no story, but, you know,
I think the only story is it's stuff that we've gone through.
Exactly.
That's the only like story you can possibly say. It's not like a story from like beginning to end. The only thing, it's like stuff that I would say you've obviously experienced and stuff that you're writing about. I think the songs were written with like what we've kind of gone through, you know, and I think that's the only story I would say is our own actual story. It's not like a biography, but
exactly.
But it's stuff that has happened in our life, has influenced kind of where we're at now.
So it's more based in real life than, let's say, in movies or games, which has always been like also a huge thing for you.
Yeah, I think we've always said that like something that, not that it turns us off from metal, but sometimes the metal genre leans too heavily into fiction, and there's not a lot of like realness to it. And again, I also like the escapism of hearing a cool story or hearing something that's like very fictional. It's like kind of nice to get lost into a whole, you know, world like that.
Like the Black Dahlia murder.
Exactly.
Style.
It's like, it's really cool to see that. It's really fun to experience it. I do enjoy that. Sometimes you don't want to face what you're, you know, kind of dealing with. But I think for us, we've just been like, this is what we've kind of been going through, and we just kind of started writing about that. And I think it made it more sense. I think just being honest and being real and being genuine and just being ourselves is something that we are anyway at our core, and that's something that we kind of pride ourselves on, just being genuine and being authentic and just being who we are. So we might as well like have our music reflect that, as opposed to like we're that way anyway, and then we tell a story that's not about us, you know?
Exactly.
So how was the songwriting? Because I think for Pain Remains you wrote a lot separately, like you would write guitar and then you would add vocals and then you would add drums, right?
Yeah, that's kind of usually how we write anyway. It's kind of like a factory. Like it's
we
like
always say we're gonna change it up.
Every single
this next one's gonna be different,
and then we end up just like resorting back to like old ways. I think we're definitely a lot better this time around because we were in the studio a lot longer. I think that was the bigger thing is that when we did Pain Remains, we were just there for like 5 weeks and we pretty much did everything there. So it was just like stress and like just, you know, crunch time. So we were just doing a lot of like that versus this time we kind of kept going back and forth to the studio. So we had a little bit more time. But I feel like we always kind of write in the same way. Like I'll start with guitar and then
riff prison.
Yeah, and then, I'll just lock myself in a room and just like go to hell for that long. And then we'll like bring it over to Austin. We'll start doing some drums to it. And then, you know, me and Andrew will sit with guitar and figure out like, is this the best thing to do? And then we'll kind of bounce off each other, and then we'll kind of have the song kind of fleshed out, and then we'll give it to Will and be like, hey, this is kind of what we're feeling. And then
I go to vocal prison.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and then he'll be like, this makes sense. And I'm like, sometimes it's like he'll get it like right on the first try, and sometimes he's like, I don't know what to do. But it's like kind of part of the process, you know. It's like we all don't know. Like we kind of can't expect everyone to get it all. Like I don't even have it figured out. So it's just like having that grace for everyone to be like, I got it, or I don't have it, and stuff like that. But there's sometimes that like I'd be like, I have this idea for like how the song, I feel the song is, and then like for Oblivion, for instance, like I had this vision in my head for like what I envisioned the song, and then like Will just did like scratch vocals for the song the first time, and I was like, oh, this is literally incredible. This is like exactly what I pictured. And then there's other times where I think another song like Unbreakable, we were all just like hitting our head against the wall, like, and it was like, what do we do? It was so hard until we were like in a room all just like trying to figure it out, which was really fun to do, but we never really did. We were all just trying to like, how do we figure out this song like lyrically and vocally and like musically? And then I feel like that kind of came out in a way that we don't normally do. But yeah, we just kind of were like, okay, we got to figure this out. And I know he for sure was having a hard time with that song.
That was the hardest song ever I've probably ever had to put vocals on, because it's just like so much overthinking going back and forth. Like you want to write something simple, but it doesn't want to be too simple. But it needs to be simple enough where it has a meaning that makes people feel good, or maybe not. And then it's like you write something, you're like, oh, you know, maybe that's gonna click. Didn't click as well. So I think that was one of the first songs that we ended up starting with, or maybe like the first or the second, and then it ended up being like the second to last one to finish.
Yeah, because it was really hard, because even for me writing it like on guitar, I wrote it like, it was one of the first songs I wrote, but the challenge was like I was like, how do I write a simple song that still sounds like the band but is accessible? And it was a challenge, like, because you would think, oh, a simple song, it should be really easy, and then you're like, then we're just so used to being like, we have to put everything into a song, and then you're like, how do you dial this back without like stripping the identity of the band?
And it's got to be good.
Exactly, it has to be good. We don't want it to be corny and cheesy and like just kind of like simple. We were like, how does it still feel interesting, but how does it feel like it gets this like kind of bigger effect? And then so that was like a challenge for me to write. So when I was even writing it, I knew the challenge that it was. So I knew when it came to vocals, I knew it would probably face the similar challenge, because we're so used to, if we have to put everything in a song, we're really good at doing that, because we're so used to overthinking and just being like, let's put everything in a song, and then you end up having an 8-minute long song like Oblivion. You're like, how did you get here? It's like, well, that's what we're really good at doing that. We're really good at writing these super long songs with like, you know,
put a bunch of notes. If a couple of them aren't cool, it's fine. You got 97%.
Yeah, exactly. Versus when you have like two, you know, like a very simple, like structured song, it's like really challenging to do. And that was like our first time doing it, so it's definitely hard. But yeah, I think
we listen to a lot of old rock.
Yeah, it was like just like
want some AC/DC
listening to a lot of like 80s like classic rock and just seeing how simple the songs were. And I would always think as a kid, this is really easy to write, and then you try doing it yourself and you're like, this is so hard, because it's you don't want it to be, like he was saying, cheesy and corny, but you want to be effective and like to the point, and you want to listen to it and you want to repeat it and stuff like that. So it was a challenge, but it was kind of fun to do that, because we were all in the room being like, how do we make this chorus sound sick, and how do we make it sound awesome? And yeah, it was just really cool just being in the room trying to figure that out. But then again, like I said, there's songs like that where we would do that, and then some songs where like Will would just like write something the first time and it was like, this is perfect. This is exactly how I pictured it, which is, you know, it's awesome.
Death Can Take Me, I was like, that's it.
Yeah, exactly.
That was so easy. I wish every song was as easy to write as that one. Yeah. Nobody knows about that one yet. You guys don't know.
But yeah, it's like I said, I think it's a a process, I would say. So, but we always try to do something different, and then we end up just doing the same thing where it's like, I'll just write some songs, I'll start passing off to other people, and then we'll, you know, finally make its way to Will, and then he'll start like sitting in a room trying to figure this out, and then we'll just like rinse and repeat 10 times or whatever. So
or 15 times.
Yeah, 15 times or 20 times. Yeah, it just like goes down that path.
It's funny that you mentioned AC/DC because I was wondering, like, do you listen to other bands at all when you're writing?
I think.
Oh yeah.
I think it's a lot of bands that people wouldn't think we listen to.
Mm-hmm.
You would never expect it. Like, I mean, well, we put on Necrophagist. Everyone,
Yeah,
that's
well,
easy.
Actually, everyone, if anyone knows me, they know I listen to that. That's like it's like my favorite band.
They're great.
But like we would like be listening to like Journey or like Bon Jovi. Like I love Bon Jovi. Growing up in New Jersey, like you have to love Bon Jovi or like Bruce Springsteen.
Living on a Prayer.
Exactly. So it's like
that was one we listened to so many times.
Listening to like stuff like that, like classic rock and like or just like pop songs, just kind of getting ideas. Just because like there's something to take from it. Not that like we're a pop band by any means or trying to be, but trying to just see like effective songwriting. And I remember like listening to like Michael Jackson. I don't know why. Just one day I just kind of had this idea. I was like, I heard a song. I was like, how do we apply this thing to the band? And we didn't end up doing it, but it was just like a thought that was in my mind or something like that. Or like we listen to like movie scores or get ideas from that just because
movies definitely help.
I think it does help because it's not delivered in like the band context. It's more like, you know, either synths or programming stuff or orchestra stuff. So it's not like the same textures that we're used to hearing. And when you're in the studio all day, you're like, I don't want to hear another guitar or drum. I want to hear something that's not that. So would find ourselves listening to that and then finally make its way into our music somehow, not on purpose, but like just I think unconsciously, just because you're just listening to stuff like that. So
yeah, it's funny you mentioned like classic rock and pop because I listened to the new record and there were some moments where it felt a bit like melodic death, but also like very like battle hymn kind of thing where I was sitting there and I was like, is this like a Lorna Shore version of like a sing-along? There were like 2 or 3 parts where I was like, whoop. What?
Yeah,
I know exactly the song that you're talking about, and I love that song.
That's awesome.
I was like, this has to go here. I don't know why in my mind I heard that part. I was like, this is it. And then we got all of the people. I was like, yo, Adam, you're getting there.
No, I did vocals on the record, which was awesome.
Oh yeah.
But like, there's not like I actually sang vocals, but I did.
You sang. I
contributed. I did for the first time ever in my entire life. My voice is on the record, so it's really cool. Not that like I sang by any means, but
it was a triumphant song.
Yeah,
it needed.
It was everyone.
Something.
It was everyone in the room like singing, which was crazy to do because I was like, I've never done this.
I've never heard them sing either. Prior to that, I was like, oh, let's see what everyone's got. I was like, whoa.
Yeah, it was awesome. It was actually a lot of fun to do. That's actually probably like if we're talking about the same song. Well, I know me and him were talking about the same song. That was probably like one of my favorite songs on the record. So it was the most fun.
But did that just happen, or was it like, yo, we want
I think that did. I think he brought up the idea, and
I just heard it in my mind.
And he brought up, and he was like, how do I get it sound like everyone's singing this? I'm like, well, then I guess you need to get everyone to sing this. Like, so like, I guess this is what we're gonna do. And then
everybody came together.
And then like everyone came together. We did it in the room, and it was just like.
Was Josh singing it too?
Josh was singing it. Chance, our photographer, was singing it. Like
everybody that we could get.
All 6 of us. So it was all of us doing it about 1,000 times, and it was like kind of fun to do because I've never done that. You know, I've always been like playing guitar in the studio, and then to go in like the other room and like do vocals with everyone was like kind of a new experience for all of us because we always just like watch him do it. And I'm like, cool. Like, and I know he's used to doing it, but for us to be like in a room trying to do it was like something different for us.
I can't wait for the studio documentary to come out. There's definitely just footage of all of us just microphone in the center. We're like all gathered around and just
it was fun. It was fun that when it finally came together, I was like, this sounds awesome. And it like got me really excited. So it was a really cool idea that like it's not like it came about when we were writing the song, but like it fit the theme of what the song was meant to feel. And I was like, this is awesome. It's perfect.
I'm glad you like that though. That paints the perfect picture. Sing along, triumphant, feel good. Assuming we're talking about the same. If we're not, then we're completely off right now. But
I hope we're talking about the same song. If not, the song that me and him were talking about, it's awesome. So yeah.
And you'll hear it soon. You'll know exactly what we're talking about if it's not. So
yeah.
Exactly. I read some interviews. I think both of you said that, which I found very interesting. That when you write, you have to have like a scene or an image in your head where you're like, I want it to sound like this. You know, it has to embody that kind of scene, so to say.
Yeah, that was
at one point.
That was Oblivion. Yeah, I think I started doing this on this record where I would take scenes out of movies and mute the audio. So I remember when I started working on Oblivion, I muted this one scene in Interstellar where they're landing on this water planet, and I just muted the audio and I played what Oblivion was, and I was like, does this fit? Because if I'm far off, then I'm far off, you know what I'm saying? But we watched it, and I was like, this kind of makes sense. So like, it was like, okay, I think we're on the right path. So I definitely, we started doing that, and like Josh would always like pull up videos, like we were had a song and we like put on this one Motley Crue video. I was like, does this fit with what we're doing? So it kind of helps, because like you may have this idea in your head, and then like sometimes seeing the vision come with the audio, it like, okay, cool, we're on the right path. Because if we're not, then like either we have to alter the theme of it, or we have to either like, I don't know, like adjust what we're working on to kind of maybe fit the theme or something like that. So yeah, I think having that visual representation kind of helped me at least.
We had the WWE wrestling guys. That was sick.
Yeah, we had like wrestling.
Every time it would hit on a certain note, it would just be a dude with like a guitar just like slamming it over someone's head or some shit.
True, that is. Yeah, we did have that. We
That's
like
the secret.
Yeah, Josh would always put these little like video clips in while we're working on these songs, and it kind of goes, at first it's like kind of funny, but then I'm like, this kind of still makes sense to what's kind of happening, so it works. So I think having the visual kind of works for me, at least. It helps
makes you feel better about the song, even if you didn't like, if there was a part of it you didn't like, and you, okay, I could visualize it a little bit better now.
Yeah.
So talking a bit about vocals, I know you're a huge Sleep Token fan, and you do like a lot of vocal covers of bands that are actually a little bit softer than what you usually do with Lorna Shore, right?
Definitely.
How do these bands and their vocal styles and deliveries influence what you do with Lorna Shore?
Honestly, it's gonna sound great. It kind of translates a little bit in the way that like I like that they're telling a story that people could grasp onto, like how I was saying before, just like going through all the experiences of everything. That is one of those. It's like saying something that's simple enough where you can pick it up and you kind of like it, and maybe you can be poetic here and there. But the reason I actually listen to those things is because I try not to take too much influence from like just other metal bands, because sometimes you'll write something and then maybe it'll come super easy to you and you're like, oh, this is it. And then you write it and you're like, sweet, it's out. And then you might listen to something later and you'll be like, oh my God, I just one for one ripped that off and I didn't even mean to. It was just like, it's playing in the back of your mind and it just goes out there like that. I'm like, that's why I do those covers, you know? I don't want to accidentally steal from somebody by...
So no clean vocals for Lorna Shore in the foreseeable future?
Not yet. We're not there yet.
Not in the traditional sense.
No, we're trying to meet you at the halfway point.
You have my clean vocals on there at that one point.
Okay, so we do have some cleans. We got that. We put like a couple. I'm not going to say that they're cleans, but they're not exactly screams at the same time. So I think going along with the whole sing-along idea that you're talking about before, I think I try to include a couple of those like in the chorus just to make people feel like you can sing it as well, or you could scream it. You know, whatever tickles your fancy. You know, whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it kind of touches on this subject of, you know, heaviness versus a certain like catchiness or a certain pop appeal. Where do you think you can achieve that, making like heavy music as heavy as you do and still have this sort of like hookiness in it, or I don't know what?
If this album has proved anything for us, it's that we can 100% do that, because we still have those heavy elements in these songs, and like some of the, like Unbreakable, you know, like it's still heavy as hell at the end, but it still has its catchy parts going throughout the whole song. And I'm not every single song is like that. Some of them we really stuck to Lorna Shore sound. Oblivion, you know, for instance. I don't know how many songs I could start getting into in this interview, but you know, we try to keep it catchy, heavy. Don't go too much in either direction. It feels better for me when I hear, you know, I guess going back to watching these other bands and like this story, like when you hear the crowd singing the lyrics back at you, or even like when we're watching Parkway and I'm like sitting back there and I'm like, he doesn't even have to do anything. Like he could just stand up there and just be like this for all I care. Like everybody's singing it is like such a power move. So if there's like a way to make a simple, catchy chorus without taking away from what Lorna Shore is, like, I guess that's probably the best influence that I can take from those bands.
For us, I think that really influenced, because we did those tours. We toured with Gojira, we toured with Mastodon, we toured with Parkway. We did a lot of festivals, and we'd see a lot of like bigger bands that they still scream and have heavy songs, but it's still like accessible and people are able to sing along to it. So I feel like if we hadn't done those tours, maybe it would be different. But having the experience of going on tour with those bands and seeing that they still have, like, they maintain their identity. Like going on tour with Gojira, they maintain the sound of a Gojira, but still have like something that you can sing along to and you can access. And it doesn't have to be in the traditional, oh, it has to be clean singing, soft singing. Like, it was still, some songs had screaming vocals, some songs had heavy parts, and people were still singing along to it. So like, that is possible. And seeing a lot of bands do that kind of allowed us to think maybe we can start doing that, you know? So we blame Parkway, I blame Gojira, I blame all those bands we toured, I blame Lamb of God, I blame all those bands. Not that, no, again, we do love those bands. It's just
they were really good for us.
Yeah, exactly.
Sure.
It was honestly really good for us to see like stuff like that being like, wow, it doesn't have to be this either one extreme or the other. Like, there is a big area of gray in the middle where it's like you could have the desired effect of like this sing along parts, but it doesn't have to be delivered in that same way, and you could still maintain being heavy and extreme and like, you know, aggressive, and still people can sing along to it. So I think having that middle ground is what we're trying to find on this record, which was, I think we got to it in the best way that still feels like the band. It doesn't feel like we're forced to do something that we're not us, you know, so.
And at the end of the day, like, bands evolve every day, you know, like just like Parkway, you see where they started and you see where they're at now. And it's like, yeah, they're still making catchy music, but like they're bigger than they've ever been. And they're still have some of that like old Parkway feel to it. Like, obviously we're not making To the Hellfire ×4, you know, anymore. Like, we did that, you know. Now it's time to move on to the next evolution of whatever Lorna Shore is about to be. And I'm sure it's going to upset some people, but like at the end of the day, like, if we're happy with it, somebody else out there is also going to be happy with it. So hopefully more than the people that are unhappy with it.
Yes.
That's the goal at the end of the day.
Yeah, hopefully the odds are in our favor.
And the fan is out, by the way.
Yeah.
I'm fucking hot as hell. I'm so sorry, everybody.
Yeah.
This is what you're about to see for the next hour.
But yeah, I mean, To the Hellfire, that song was also a very good like sign that heavy music can have a huge mass appeal. And that was a very fucking heavy song, and it just went completely viral, like beyond the deathcore scene, you know. And that, like, being also your first single with the band, I was wondering, is there still like some kind of shadow looming over there where it's like, oh, we need to kind of recreate that, we have to live up to that somehow?
I don't think we ever want to do that again. No. I think it was like, we did it so that we could be like, all right, sweet, we did it. But the problem is we don't want to keep writing songs to scratch the itch of what To the Hellfire did. You know, I think it was, for me, I personally think it was a lucky moment. TikTok just picks random things up. They hear one thing that's weird. It doesn't matter. It could be like a fart. And it's like, oh my God, everybody knows that fart. Like, we were that fart for people, and everybody started sharing it all over the place. And obviously we're really happy with it, but I don't think the goal is to continue doing things like that. I think we just want to write good music.
I think recreating that was something that we did not want to do, especially because after we did that EP and we had that moment, and then when we did Pain Remains, like, we did not want to recreate that. I think that was a thought in our mind, but I feel like it was not wanting to do that. And then we end up doing Pain Remains, which is like a 3-part, more emotional song, and like that did really, really, really well, and like people connected to that, even to me, even more than people connected to Hellfire. Like, Hellfire, people like got exposed to the band, but I feel like when we play both those songs live, the reaction and the feedback that I feel like I see is way more people are into Pain Remains than they are Hellfire. People are, I think, more familiar with it, but I feel like the actual reaction, the actual engagement is way more with Pain Remains. So I feel like I think what I've learned from seeing that is that you don't have to keep recreating something that did well. You can still get a similar result, which is you just want people to be into what you're doing and connecting to your music. And it doesn't have to be like, oh, it needs to be this carbon copy of this thing, and just keep doing it over and over and over again. It could be just the result of people connecting to your art, which is kind of what we wanted to have. And hopefully that still translates through future releases and this current release and stuff like that. So
I mean, you could literally see the difference. Like,
you wonder,
to the Hellfire, we play it, everyone's phone's out, nobody's actually like feeling anything.
Yeah.
Pain Remains comes on,
so different.
People are just cry.
And I'm excited to see how people react to like songs like Oblivion and some of the newer songs, because this is our first time playing that live. So I'm excited to see what that reaction is, because we've been rehearsing it. It's been fun to play, and I'm like, kind of like, it's one thing to like play it by myself and practice it at home, and that's another thing to like play it at rehearsal and like actually kind of perform it. And I'm like, oh, this is really fun to play, and I'm excited to see if it like how people like latch onto it. So I think I don't think we've ever wanted to recreate doing that. It's kind of like metaphorically, like you go somewhere for like holiday, and you're like, I've already been here, and then you have an option to go anywhere else in the world, and you're like, am I going to keep going back to the same place for holiday? sorry, vacation, whatever. So for me, yeah, it's kind of like that. It's like I already went here. I already saw this place, and it's like there's so many other places in the world that I want to see. I'm not going to keep. Not that that place is wrong. That the place is bad. I enjoyed that place, but I already seen it, and I would like to see somewhere else and like to experience somewhere else. So I feel like it's maybe a metaphorical to that, and for how I view it. So.
Yeah. So to wrap things up, like connecting to that, my last question would be, when you write new songs, both talking about the new album, but maybe even further than that. Oh my God.
Stevie D is rolling right now.
Are you, what's your aim? Are you trying to go like even more extreme, more complex, more over the top, more demanding? Or are you searching for like challenges in different places now?
Honestly, it is so hard to even begin thinking about that, because it feels like the amount of headache that we just went through to get this one done, and it doesn't even feel like it was done that long ago.
Yeah.
It's like I haven't even started thinking about what the next thing is going to be yet. But
I think it's a mixture of both. I feel like that's what we did during this time. Is like I feel like what we really stuck to was like whatever the identity of the song is, let's just like dive headfirst into it. If it's meant to be extreme and over the top and like just putting everything into a song, let's like make it that, let it be that character, and like let's commit to that. If it's meant to be like a challenge, something that's different for us, we're like write a simple song, write something that's more accessible, like let's lean into that. I feel like that's the best thing I gained during this process, and I feel like I don't know, I don't want to say that it's like, okay, the direction is good, let's just commit to going down this one route, or let's go down this route. I think the nice thing about this record is that like we were able to be different characters. We didn't have to be just like one person. You know, it's kind of like when you see an actor or an actress and they're like typecasted, they only do this one role. It's nice you get to be different roles, you know? Like it's nice that you could be in an action film, and you can be like in a sci-fi thriller, and you can be like in a mystery, whatever. It's nice you can play different roles, and I think it's fun for me to write different styles of songs. It's fun to me to be like, one day you're writing a extremely accessible, like pop-oriented song, and then the next day you write the most extreme heavy song you ever wrote, and we have both of those on the record. It's fun to kind of have that, I don't know, like that different characters, I guess, as opposed to being like, we're this one person, we're this one character, and we only can show up and be this. You can only be in these mafia films, and you're Robert De Niro, and you can only be an Italian American in the mafia. But it's nice that you can play other characters. You know, I feel like I enjoy that. I enjoy that aspect, and I also do love Robert De Niro. So
There's nothing wrong about reading Robert De Niro.
Again, I love all his films, but it's just something nice to be able to just be able to be different me's. You know, and I think we all experience life, and we all have different moments, and we're not just like every day going through the same stuff. We kind of all have ebbs and flows of, like, life has those ebbs and flows and those challenges. And I think leaning into it musically, where it's like someday you're feeling your best and you write something that's like uplifting and positive and you're excited, and some days you're feeling your worst and you're like, I want that to come out, and write a song that's either sad or frustrating or upsetting or whatever it is. And I think just kind of leaning into the more human element of being able to be different parts of yourself and have our music reflect that, I feel like is my view on it, at least. If that makes any bit of sense. But in my head, it makes a whole bunch of sense.
I will say also, I think, you know, you're talking about like what's next and whatever would be written next is, I think it's also what I've learned from, like I said, the previous, you know, album, just playing it live, seeing what people really attach to the most has helped me figure out stuff that I know what I want to start leaning towards, you know, what makes people feel a certain type of way, what makes me feel a certain type of way, and is exactly how Adam's saying, just having a bunch of different stuff. I have like a bajillion notes in my phone of just like endless different types of angry songs, pop songs, not pop songs, you know, just uplifting, like the triumphant one, you know. Yeah. So we'll see what's gonna happen.
Exciting. I'm curious to see where the journey leads.
I'm nervous now that I think about next record.
I'm like literally have not, like, our manager is like, you guys should start thinking about this, and we're like, relax.
We haven't played one song off this album live.
Period.
Like, we're starting
First
tomorrow.
song came out.
We're starting tomorrow, the first time to actually play a song off this record live, and it's just one song. So, yeah. I mean, I'm excited. I think I'm really excited. I think it feels so much better now to play a new song, because after we've been rehearsing, like, I got really excited in the set when we started playing Oblivion. I was like, oh, this is fun to play something new other than the same songs we've been playing for years. So I'm excited to start adding more songs into the set. And I think as we start adding more songs, you start seeing people's reaction to it. I think it'll also dictate kind of like what path to take, because I feel like when we did our whole Pain Remains and its entirety tour, we played all those songs, and I feel like by seeing the reaction to people, kind of like, not that we use that as like we have to do this, but allowed us to go, okay, we're on the right path by doing this. So I feel like as we start playing songs off the record, it'll make it more clear of what to do. Or maybe what we did on this record was the worst thing ever and we have to start over and stuff. But I don't really think it's that. But yeah, I don't know. I think it'll become clear over the next few years, and I have to start thinking about it as of yesterday, apparently.
Enjoy the moment.
I ain't thinking about it. Enjoy the goodness, exactly.
For a bit, like at least until the album's out.
Yeah. I'm going to.
Awesome. Thanks so much for sitting down with us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm very curious to see what's next, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks for watching.